When you talk about controversies and celebrities, without a doubt, Paris Hilton should take the crown. Hold up, you do know who Paris Hilton is, don't you? Well, let's jolt your memory just a little. She is a media personality, businesswoman, socialite, and model, as well as an actress and a DJ, who is generally considered to be famous for being famous. She is one of the great-granddaughters of the Conrad Hilton, the founder of Hilton Hotels, so we can say she is also a hotel heiress, and she rose to fame through her appearances in the show The Simple Life. She's also an author, as she published her book Confessions of an Heiress in 2004, but before this, in 2003, she came to the limelight for something most people would consider controversy at its best. Want to find out what that thing is and more? Follow us through to the end. In today's episode, we're going to take you through 10 controversial things about Paris Hilton that you might just haven't heard about. But before we get into all of that, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on our post notification to get more juicy stuff. She has trust issues. In Paris's documentary that was released in September, she shared stuff about her that most people don't know and have only been before just rumors. Among those things is her trust issues. During a scene that was filmed in her home in Los Angeles, Paris revealed her large collection of laptops, and you need not be shocked about why she has so many laptops, as she explains herself. Anytime I get a new boyfriend, I get a new computer because they always break into my computers or they'll scream at me and threaten me. "Give me your password now," she explained. One night, I was with one of my ex-boyfriends and we got into a big fight. I was on my computer ignoring him because I just felt very uncomfortable, and he just grabbed it from me and slammed it on the floor, end quote. To give more light to this, we see in an earlier scene where she installed a spy cam in her house just before her new boyfriend arrived, saying, quote, "I'm doing this because I have a new boyfriend. I do want to know what's happening when I'm not here," end quote. And according to her sister Nikki Hilton Rothschild, Paris has been, quote, "betrayed so many times that she has a tough time trusting people and letting them in," end quote. She has nightmares more often than not. She always has nightmares where she's captured and taken away. Now, this is bad enough not being real, but she revealed that this recurring nightmare is inspired by a real-life event, being taken in the middle of the night from her bed to go to one of the schools in which she had a tough time in. Quote, "I knew there was a takedown in the works," Nikki recalled. "I didn't know it was people coming in and capturing her." Paris recalled thinking she was being kidnapped. Quote, "I thought I was being kidnapped. I started screaming for my mom and dad, like, 'help me,' and no one came. And as they were taking her, she remembered seeing her parents standing by their door, crying as they watched. But by breakfast the following morning, they were back to business as usual," Nikki explained. Quote, "My parents were smiling like everything was fine," she remembered. "We didn't ask any questions, and then I think Kathy said she went to boarding school. They were always trying to protect us and shield us," end quote. She struggles with insomnia. Due to the recurring nightmare that she always has, she also revealed that she has a hard time falling asleep, as while she was on a promotional tour in Korea, the camera stayed with Paris as she tried multiple times to fall asleep, but failed to fall asleep as the minutes got closer and closer to her early start time. Quote, "I had horrible insomnia," she admitted. "I'm scared to go to bed at night. I always have this recurring nightmare no matter what I do. I'm in bed and these people come into my room and say, 'Do you want this to happen the easy way or the hard way?' And I try and just run," end quote. Her rebellious teenagehood. When she was in her teenage years, she felt the need to be accepted, and she got this way by partying at night. Paris became addicted to the nightlife when her family moved to New York City and she was just in high school. Quote, "When I was 17, I was living in New York City at the Waldorf Astoria Hotel," she explained. "My parents were very strict, so a lot of the times what I would do is actually sneak out at night. I just felt accepted," she explained. "I felt like the queen of the night. That's where I really became Paris," end quote. She once explained in detail just how she always manages to escape from her residence. Quote, "So basically, one day I went through the whole hotel and figured out what the best route was and where the security cameras wouldn't spot me. I would literally turn down maybe 15 flights of stairs through the fire exit," end quote. "And then I'd put a blonde wig with the hair coming out. This actually worked for a few months. My mom had no idea. Then one night, for some reason, she needed to talk to me and came in the room and lifted the comforter up and," end quote. Expectively, her parents weren't accepting of this behavior. Quote, She was very naughty, Nikki admitted, and then their breaking point was reached. Finally, I locked her in her room, Kathy, her mom, recalled. I was afraid she could run into a predator and get kidnapped. Fear, to me, is the most powerful feeling there is. More than pain, more than love, more than hate, and more than light. Fear. And I thought this was the worst mistake ever, moving here. This series of events led to their decision to send her away, as Paris explained that she was made to feel hidden by her status-obsessed family. I feel like my parents were scared, and they didn't want their reputations to be ruined because Page Six was writing all of these stories, she said. Perhaps the biggest and most shocking revelation about Paris is the fact that she suffered abuse, including strangulation, being locked in rooms and screamed at, while also attending Provo Canyon School when she was a teenager, as her parents couldn't curtail her rebellious ways and sent her away. Quote, I feel like a lot of people who worked there got off torturing children and seeing them naked, she said. They would prescribe everyone all these pills. I didn't know what they were giving me. I would just feel so tired and numb, end quote. When Paris tried to stop taking the pills, she said she was caught hiding them and severely punished by being in solitary confinement. Quote, they would make people take their clothes off and go in there for like 20 hours, she alleged. I felt like I was going crazy. Someone was in the other room and they were like in a straitjacket. I was just freezing. I was starving, I was alone, and I was scared, end quote. After experiencing this torture for 11 months and some days at Provo, Paris finally returned to New York. She was seriously traumatized and didn't tell her family about this ordeal. Quote, I think all of my anger just went into my drive for success, she explained. It made me strong, but when I think about it, it gives me anxiety. It was really effing hard, end quote. Paris finally decided to reveal the extent of her experience at the school to her mother, after meeting with fellow survivors and her friends from the Provo days. Quote, they were constantly being abusive in every way, she shared with a shell-shocked Kathy, who later began to cry. But I couldn't tell you guys because every time I tried, I got punished by them. Or they would say, we're just going to tell your parents you're a liar, and they're not going to believe you anyway. In a statement to E! News, Provost Canyon School said, quote, originally opened in 1971, Provo Canyon School was sold by its previous ownership in August of 2000. We therefore cannot comment on the operations or patient experience prior to this time, end quote. Paris also addressed speaking out publicly, with explanations on why it took so long to share this traumatizing experience. Quote, I wanted to do something, but at the same time, I didn't want to hurt my brand, she said. I can't have this be part of my business, and people won't understand. But if I don't do this, it's going to continue to happen, and I'm going to continue to be traumatized and think about it the rest of my life, end quote. She has had an unfair deal of abusive relationships. Towards the end of her documentary, Paris opened up about the way she was treated by some of her previous boyfriends, claiming that she had been physically, emotionally, and verbally abused by no less than 5 men. Quote, I've been in a lot of relationships where people get so controlling and so angry that they become physical, she revealed, going on to address the shocking photos of her from 2004, in which she has bruises, a bloody lip, and what appears to be swelling under her eye. We just got into an argument, she recalled of the incident. I was trying to leave the house and he just got really mad and just grabbed me and pulled me. I don't really remember most of it because I've had worse stuff happen, end quote. She did continue, I've been strangled, phones thrown at me, computers, and I accepted it because I almost thought it was normal. Like, he loves me so much that he's going crazy. I just wanted to believe him so bad that I was willing to accept being hit or yelled or screamed at or even strangled. A lot of things, end quote. Paris believed that her time at Provo made her not, quote, even know what love is or how to have a relationship, end quote. The infamous sex tape. On June 15th of 2004, shortly after Hilton's TV series The Simple Life debuted, the sex tape of her and Rick Solomon was released to the public, causing a media sensation. Hilton then stated publicly that she had been out of it. She didn't know what she was doing during the recording of the video and without a doubt did not approve of the video's public release. This resulted in Solomon suing Hilton for defamation, with Paris countersuing Solomon over the release of the tape. They ended up settling out of court in July of 2005, with Hilton being awarded as much as $400,000. In a 2006 interview with the British edition of GQ magazine, Hilton stated, quote, I've never received a dime from the video. It's just dirty money and Solomon should give it all to some charity for the sexually abused or something. To be honest, I don't even think about it anymore, end quote. Now, it's been almost 2 decades since this sex tape that was taped in 2001 had been released, and Paris says its impact that it had on her remains vivid. Quote, "That was a private moment of a teenage girl, not in her right headspace, but everyone was watching it and laughing like it's something funny," she said, fighting back tears. "If that happened today, it would not be the same story at all, but they made me into a bad person. I did something bad. I was just so lost and desperate for love that I found the worst possible person. For people to think that I did this on purpose because after all these leaked tapes were coming out, and it almost became like a blueprint to become famous," she continued. I don't know. I didn't need to do that. I always had a plan." End quote. Solomon has not responded to E! News' request for comment. Maybe he will soon enough, so we can finally get to the answer to the question that has been on everyone's mind, whether Paris agreed to the sex tape being released or not. The size of gigantic feet. On a less serious tone, do you know what size of shoes Paris wears? I bet you didn't. She wears a size 11, as she has big feet, which she is not too fond of. In her 2006 autobiography, she confessed, quote, "Okay, I admit it, I desperately hate one thing about my body. I have size 11 feet," end quote. And of course, it's a fashion problem. Quote, "It sucks," she wrote, "because I have all these super cute shoes in the stores, Gucci's, YSL's, Manelo's, and when they're brought out in my size, they look like clown shoes on me. I can't wear flats because my feet are too long. At least high heels shrink how long my feet look. But forget ever seeing me in ballet slippers or tennis shoes. I'd look like I'm wearing canoes." Perhaps this is the reason the 5'8" DJ started her own footwear line, and of course, there are no flats. Her run-ins with the law. Be it DUI or owning illegal substances, Paris has had so many run-ins with the law. One of the first times that the police got involved in Paris Hilton's life was on September 27th of 2006, when she was arrested on suspicion of DUI as she was driving out of an In-N-Out burger. When it was time for her to go to court in January, she pleaded guilty to reckless driving and was sentenced to 3 years of probation. She also had to pay a fine of $1,500 and attend alcohol education classes. This is the most common punishment for first-time offenders with the same offense. In February of last year, she was pulled over again by police for speeding and having no headlights on, even though she wasn't supposed to be driving. She was taken to court again, but this time for driving with a suspended license. And this time, the judge did not go easy on her, as she was sentenced to 45 days in jail on May 4th of 2007. On June 7th, her lawyer managed to get her reassigned to monitored house arrest due to a then undisclosed medical condition that was eventually described as panic attacks and anxiety. However, she was sent back to prison on June 13th, where she served only half of the sentence due to good behavior and overcrowding in the jail. She was released on June 26, 2007. Unfortunately, it was not her only problem with the law. In July of 2010, the socialite was questioned about alleged marijuana smoking while in South Africa for the World Cup. Eventually, a friend of hers admitted that she was the one carrying the drug, so Paris was set free. About 2 weeks later, she was stopped again at a private airport after security personnel found marijuana in her purse. Since she had less than a gram on her, they let her go. That Mecca controversy. When she opened her 5th store in the holy city of Mecca, Saudi Arabia, and the 42nd in the world that year, it outraged Muslims all over. She took to Twitter, notwithstanding, to celebrate her win. Quote, "Loving my beautiful new store that just opened up at Mecca Mall in Saudi Arabia. This is the 5th store in Saudi Arabia and number 42 in total. So proud to keep growing my brand." End quote, she posted. And this promptly sparked the angered Muslims as they showed their displeasure online as they accused her of insulting Mecca. Quote, "It is unnecessary to have her shop here because we do not need it. If it was in our hands, we would have closed all of her shops in Saudi," said Sheikh Adnan Barith, a conservative cleric who preaches in Mecca. And another wrote, quote, "How can someone have made such a video open a store in the holy city next to the Grand Mosque? It is not acceptable to have such a woman open her store here." End quote. There are no records, however, of Paris addressing this issue or acting as if she's heard about displeasures to date. That's all for today on 10 controversial things about Paris Hilton. Do not forget to subscribe and turn on post notifications. You can also comment as well, and go back to watch previously missed episodes. Till next time.